The plan was we're going to build a business, and what type of business, and what's going to be your brand. When I tell you, I literally planned that out in the ICU, and I feel like that was the shift for me, because I had to fight for my life, and for me, it was about how can I take it to the next level.
All right, welcome everybody to the Speak Your Life podcast. My name is Andre. You already know what time it is. It's time for another impactful conversation here at the show. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Some of y'all are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Wherever you are, especially if you're on YouTube, we want you to be a part of this family. We want you to be a lifer. We want you to be part of the Speak Your Life family because it's great content coming to you every week, and we just don't want you to miss it. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So today's amazing guest, all the way from, she's really from Texas, but she lives in Kansas City now. She's doing her thing in the legal and ethics. She's working in the legal and ethics compliance arena at a major corporation that you know of and you've heard of. We'll get into that later. But anyways, without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Jamie. Welcome.
You.
How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. So if you were giving me, I like to give a scale 1 to 10. Everybody says, I'm good, I'm great, da da da. How are you feeling 1 out of 10?
I am blessed. So do I have to give a number?
Yeah, if you're feeling a 10 out of 10 or an 11 out of 10,
every day that you wake up is a good day. It's a blessing. So I'm going to say 10 out of 10.
All right, let's go with that.
Yeah, no matter what challenges or nothing, you woke up.
That's right.
Yeah, you woke up.
We woke up. So we're looking good, and we're feeling good too. Yep. We're feeling good. The energy is here. So yeah. So you ready to speak your life?
Yes. I'm excited. I'm excited.
All right. So we like to, first start it off with asking everybody, whenever you look at your life, it was there's two important things when it comes to life that are most important: the day you were born and the day you knew why. You don't have to give us a number, opening up your book and your journey and all that stuff. You can give us what kind of era did you grow up in? What kind of environment did you grow up in? And just give us that journey. It's led you into you felt why you were put on this earth.
Right. So I grew up in Texas. So I was born in Florida, grew up in Texas. Yeah. And so in my household, it was a very loving, nurturing environment. My mom was a true ride or die mom, right?
Yeah.
If anything happened at the school, she was up there, right? Protesting for Black and brown students, right? She'd be at the school board. So I always grew up in a very advocating environment, right? It's funny because my dad is the real quiet one. He was in the military, so he doesn't really say much, right? Literally the whole day he might say 5 words to us, legit. So growing up with seeing that strong Black woman, right, and she was in education as well. She was a teacher, and how she just really invested, right, in the next generation. That really kind of instilled in me, I want to make sure I'm always helping the community, and what can I do to further advance people of color and women, right? And so, I decided, when I was thinking about colleges, I actually went to the University of Florida, and it's funny because I was there, and I always say this, during the best years with the Tim Tebow, we had the basketball and the football. So we were, when I say wilding out, doing the most, right?
I remember.
Yeah, it was some good days.
I only remember that because even though I wasn't in college at the time, I was an Ohio State fan. My dad went to Ohio State.
Okay,
Y'all beat us in football, we beat in the championship, and y'all beat us in basketball in the championship. So I can't ever forget about that. I was pissed.
Yeah, it was some good times. And the funny thing is, actually, when we played OU in the championship in Miami, I actually went to the game because I had a cousin that played basketball and football.
Really?
So I was going to all the. I had some good days. So going there and I will be very transparent. That's when I realized, because even though I went to this huge university, we had at that time, I think we were the number one party school, the number one, right?
I can see that.
It was a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
But I also saw in the community, little bit of segregation, right? I
Oh,
saw
okay.
some of the disfranchisement outside of the university, right?
Oh,
So in the
okay.
actual city. And for me, it was how can I advocate and how can I show and how can I help? And so it's really funny, and a lot of times I forget about this, but a friend and I actually reached out because we saw some things happening to the Black students, right?
Yeah.
Outside, like when we were on like downtown or when we would have parties, sorority and fraternity parties, the difference in how we were treated compared to like the white sororities, right? And the white fraternities, you would see a lot more police on horses. With us, yeah, a lot, yeah. They had the police on horses,
days?
like they had the police on horses, like and they'd just be, and so I actually had reached out to some people, how can we, really get some agencies to come and talk to us and kind of bridge the gap, and so we did that, and we had some conversations, and then from there I was like, okay, maybe I should go to law school, right? So I actually stayed at UF for grad school. I got my master's in business. And then I actually went to North Carolina Central School of Law in Durham, HBCU, for law school. I thought it was really important for me to be taught by Black faces. I wanted to see people that looked like me. At University of Florida, it was a PWI. I had a great time, right? But for me, my mom went to Bethune-Cookman, right? So it was always something of HBCUs. My godfather went to Xavier and Bethune. So like they would always talk to me about HBCUs. Now they knew I wanted to go to UF undergrad, but for me, it was important when it came to going to law school. I wanted to make sure I was educated in that type of environment. Because if you think about it, like, 50% of attorneys, Black attorneys went to an HBCU. Like 70% of judges went to an HBCU, right? So it shows you the impact to the community, right? And how important the law schools are when it comes to the profession, right? And having those numbers there. So I went to North Carolina Central there. I really just kind of put my head down. I didn't really do anything extracurricular. I just really focused on just finishing, right? And finishing with honors. But I also did a lot of entrepreneurship there. So I was in the entrepreneurship clinic. I was in like the veterans clinic. And then from there, I actually, then had some internships and different things. That kind of opened up my eyes to how can I use my platform to help others, right? But I will tell you the turning point when I realized, working for all these great corporations, sometimes isn't that great. The turning point was a couple years ago. I actually decided to freeze my eggs because, as you know, as a woman, there is an age, they say, like when you're 35, they say, fertility or something like that. They're saying, they just talk about, you get older, the quality of your eggs. And so I decided to freeze my eggs and to be proactive. And so literally I had the egg retrieval on a Wednesday. Thursday, I woke up definitely like sick. And this is during COVID, right? And I already knew, I felt it, like, because I've never been sick like that before. I knew it was COVID, right? And so because I have a mom that is very involved, I did not want to scare her, right? So like I would be talking to her and I would try to like keep my head up and figure out, I was like, I can't let her know I'm sick, right? Because she worries. And she's a prayer warrior, so she'll pray, but I know she, So that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I am struggling. Like I'm in the bed, I can barely breathe. If I have to go to the restroom, I have to run to the restroom because I can't breathe. The only way I'm able to breathe is if I'm laying down. It was the craziest thing. Sunday, I woke up and I was like, I could tell, like, I was like, if I continue on, I'm dying. Like this is, I cannot sustain this. So I get rushed to the emergency room. I get admitted, right? And so at that time I was already still weak because I had just went through IVF, a whole bunch of hormones. And during the IVF process, I barely slept. For some reason, I couldn't really sleep. So I already was just, my body was really beat down. So they tell me that I have pneumonia and COVID. Yeah, I have both. So I get admitted to the ICU. Now I'm thinking they're just going to give me some medicine maybe or something. They're like, no, like this is serious. So I tell them like, well, I just had IVF. I'm still taking my medication from the, just trying to make them aware I still have other medicines I have to take because I didn't want to get, an infection or anything, right? And so I get admitted. I'm in the ICU for 5 days. 5 days. Wow. So the first day I'm there, I tell my parents start praying, and then they actually like come from Dallas. Like, and of course in Kansas City, they're not allowed. You're not allowed in the ICU. Literally, I was by myself. No one was allowed in that wing besides the nurses, the doctors, right, and the patients. And that first day, I told the doctor, between coughing and not being able to breathe and just, I told her, I was like, I'm going to walk out of here. Like, I'm not dying here. because I did not pray to potentially have, give birth one day, right? And go through the IVF process to then die a few days later from COVID, right? Like, that did not happen in that order, right? And so I was the whole time, I'm talking to my sister and having very transparent conversations, to be honest, about where my will was located, my accounts, my different bank accounts, my passwords, my 401k, this, all this stuff, life insurance. I'm having these conversations with her because I really didn't want to have with my parents, because I didn't want to scare them, right? Yeah. And in between my sister and I are 11 years apart, right? So at that time, she's
younger? Or?
Yeah, she's younger.
Okay.
She's younger. Yeah, she's younger. At that time, she actually was in her last year at Thurgood Marshall School of Law.
Oh, okay.
And so she's graduating now. We're waiting for our results. Yeah.
Congrats to her.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for her. And so during that time, she's crying. I'm semi-crying, but can't breathe. But I told her, I was like, I'm going to fight. I was like, I'm really tired. And usually in the Black community, let's be honest, when people say that they're tired and they're in the hospital, usually that means that they're going to kind of give up. They want to go on, the glory, right, as we say, right? To be with Jesus, right? When they say they're tired, right? Yeah. But I told her, I was like, I'm tired, but I had to make sure, I was like, hold on, let me caveat this. I said, but I'm going to fight. Right. I was like, I'm tired just because my body's been through so much, but I'm going to fight. But I want you to know where everything is just in case. Right. And then I'm calling different friends. And I don't know, I didn't call them. I was texting because I couldn't really talk. She was the only person I actually talked to, and my parents. Okay. But I text them and I said, hey, if something happens to me, please make sure you take care of my sister. Right. So I'm crying and I'm thinking to myself, I'm really having these conversations with my friends. And they're like, Jamie, nothing's going to happen to you. When I tell you, my sorority sisters were praying for me, like sorority sisters I've never met all across the world. Because we've lived, my dad was in the military, so we've lived everywhere. So my mom put out the prayer request. I had my Link sisters, my AKA sorority sisters. I had so many people praying for me, right? And I just appreciate that prayer, because the second day, and in the hospital, you really can't sleep because they're in there every other hour, giving me medicine, giving me shots, taking blood. So the entire time I'm in the ICU, to be honest, I'm on my phone. That's the only thing I really have. And I am thinking about what I can do when I get out. Okay. Right? Because that's what kept me going. Because remember, I said I wasn't going to die. I wasn't dying there. Yeah. And I was very intentional, but I just kept getting up, going to the restroom, because that also, doctor told me that also helps kind of keep, and I was just very intentional about what can I do when I get out. Because when I thought about my accounts, my 401k, this great corporate job I have, right? I was like, this isn't enough to leave my little sister who, I adore. I kind of sometimes feel like I'm her second mom, right? Because we're so far apart. I'm like, this isn't enough to leave my little sister. This isn't enough to leave my family. Yeah. My mom, my dad. And so for me, I said, okay, what can I do? And I'm literally in the ICU the whole time figuring out a plan. And my plan was, every year, Jamie, we're going to buy another multifamily. Right. We're gonna get more property. The plan was, we're gonna build a business, and what type of business, and what's gonna be your brand. When I tell you, I literally planned that out in the ICU, and I feel like that was the shift for me, because I had to fight for my life, and for me, it was about how can I take it to the next level. Because I have 3 degrees, and I'm this and I'm that, but when you're in the ICU and you're by yourself, right?
All that doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? Because the corporations, they're not sending flowers, right? Really? They're not sending cards, right? These big corporations I work for, right? I'm in the ICU by myself fighting for my life. Yeah. Right? And it just told me that I need to do more. And for me, how can I do that? Entrepreneurship. So that's when I was watching videos. And I'll tell you, for some reason, my mentor now, Carter Cofield, he is a great mentor, and he's a CPA, and he really does a lot of teaching on tax-free lifestyle and entrepreneurship. I saw one of his reels, and I just kind of started watching him, right, and looking at his stuff and learning, and then from there it was like, hey, Jamie, so what do you want to do? Right? And I was in the ICU thinking about things I like to do. So, okay, yes, we already know we're going to do more real estate, but things that I like to do, I like to shop, right? I like to shop. I like to eat. Like, what can I do? Because for me, it has to be aligned with my passions and what I like to do, right? And I started thinking about vending.
Yeah.
And how can I scale that? How can I grow that? I start thinking about micro markets because a lot of people don't know. They just see traditional vending machines. They don't think about micro markets. So micro markets are small convenience stores. So think about at the airport, right? At the airport, it's that small little kiosk. You have a couple of coolers. You have a couple of shelving, right? You go up, you pay, right? But micro markets are unmanned. So you have the kiosk, right? That's where you pay, right? Now, when I always talk about my micro markets, they're like, okay, what about theft? What's always important to put your micro markets right in a safe, secure place, like hospitals. Traditionally, people are not trying to steal at a hospital, right?
No,
or like
for the most part.
right, for the most part, right? Or like office buildings that are very secure, things like that, where the employees don't want to lose their job over a bag of Skittles or about like Skittles or a bag of chips, right? Like things like that. And so that was my game plan. So I left the ICU, and when they wheeled me out, I started crying, and they were like, "Are you okay? Can you breathe?" And I told them, I said, I'm just grateful to be alive. Like I'm blessed. Like the Lord kept me. Like there were so many people that did not make it out of the ICU.
Yeah.
Right. Like how many people that we see on Facebook that, that they were, burying their cousin or their aunt because of, right. And
some of them are even church members,
right.
Good. They try to go to see the Lord and praise the Lord, but
and got
some of them, they prayed and their prayers didn't get answered.
And so that was for me. I left and I was crying and I was like, okay, let's execute, right? And so it took me about, like, to be honest, about 3-4 weeks afterwards, because I was having massive headaches and it was just it was like terrible. I couldn't really stand light. But once I healed up, I got to it. And so that's kind of like the pivot of kind of entrepreneurship and how I was able to kind of grow that space for me.
And did you have like any prior experience or just like surroundings with entrepreneurship, like family, friends?
So besides, like I said, I did a lot of the entrepreneurship classes in law school. I have my business. I'm sorry, my master's is in business management, and I had to focus on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
So I always enjoyed entrepreneurship and wanted to learn about it, wanted to support, right? But no, for me, it was something that I kind of just like dived into. Now, growing up, my parents did have a business. They were vendors for Alphas. So they had like Alpha ties, they had Alpha jackets, like stuff like that. The conferences, right? Like we did stuff like that growing up.
Different vending.
Like different vending. Different vending, right?
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be, right? And we would go to the conference and sell that. But for the most part, it was just, I just kind of dived into it.
That's cool. That's cool. And so now, I guess, did you start for like buying like 5 vending machines or like 1, or like how did you start off with?
So what I did was, because the whole thing is you really shouldn't buy a machine until you have everything in place, right? You have to have your brand, right? You have to have a brand. You have to have a nice website, right? Because if I'm going to come to you and you're in an apartment complex, you're a new office building, they want to know that you're legit. They want to know that you're a real business, that you're reputable, right? That you're dependable. So you have to have your whole package together. You have to have a great website, right? You have to have your, whether it's name tags, whether it's business cards, whether it's a polo or something with the branding. You want your logo. You want to make sure that the packet that you give them is put together. Right, and it's branded. You want to make sure you have an email address, not just your personal, right? You want to make sure you have the
gmail.com.
Right. You don't need any of that. Like so you have to get that started first, right? And so I did that, right? Had that together, and then from there I went out and really thought about where do I want to put my machines, what type of machines, and then where is the need. Right. So I always talk about food deserts. So food deserts, for me, this is my definition, are places where it's really hard to get the fast food, right? Because 9 times out of 10, if you're hungry, you just want to get something quick and go back to the house, especially right during COVID. So like, I was like, where's a food desert where there might be, like IHOP or Denny's, but there's not like a Wendy's or McDonald's, right? Because then I'm able to at least get them some snacks, and then they can go back to work, back in, into their building or into their apartment, and things like that. So I kind of mapped out locations, areas, and then I just started kind of the first couple locations I did cold calls, right? And that's just kind of where you call apartment complex and kind of pitch your business. set up a meeting, and then you go in and kind of walk the area to figure out on their property where would it suit best. You always want to make sure it's somewhere where it's 24/7 access, right?
Okay.
A lot of foot traffic.
Yeah.
And so my first location was at an apartment complex, and it's outside. It's not inside because their lobby actually closes at like 7, right? And but it's right by the pool, and it's really close to their mailboxes. Yeah. Well, that particular area is very, 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 very secure, right? So I don't have to worry about that area when it comes to that. But outside vending machines are traditionally more. They're going to be a little bit more expensive because you have to deal with the weather element. So it's going to have that insulation and then the security element. So it's going to be a heavier vending machine already because it's traditionally not the breakable glass, right? You think about that, right?
Get some snacks, Doritos.
Right. Yeah. So that was my first location, and then from there, it just kind of went really, really fast.
Wow. So you started with just one place and one machine after you did your branding, of course, and then so now you're at how many?
So now I'm at over 25 locations.
Okay.
I have micro markets, which is, in my opinion, a lot more profitable than the traditional vending machines. But it really, really grew. So I went from one location, then I had a couple of locations. And then after that, I was like, I really want to scale my business. How do I scale? Because if you think about social media, you'll look on social media and you will think that vending, you get one machine, you'll be like, oh, I'm about to be a millionaire. You know how people like put it on social media, like you're like, what? But it doesn't work like that. You have to scale in order. If you see people that are making a lot of money, they have multiple locations, right? And usually it's over 20. In order to make a lot of money, you have to have over 20. So you have to be very cognizant of that. So I always say that because I really sometimes don't like how social media can like kind of get people thinking, oh, if I do this,
TikTok will make you feel inspired to do
anything, right?
Become a billionaire overnight.
Yeah, and you're like, no, it don't work like that, right?
Do you even have a business plan? No.
Right, nothing. Just gonna throw, yeah. So after I had about 2 to 4 locations, then I started looking into buying a route.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. You said buying a route?
Buying a vending route.
Vending route. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So a vending route is like I have an established business, but I'm getting tired of it. I'm older. I need to retire. I have about 7 locations. I'm just giving you examples. I have 7 locations. One might be at a laundromat. One might be a couple might be in office buildings.
Yeah.
I'm going to sell this business, this route to you. So the relationships with the location, right? The vending machines, I'm going to sell that to you. Okay. And so what does that process look like? So I went through that whole process, and it was really insightful because you think about it, it took us about 2 or 3 months to even like negotiate, look through all the financials. Okay. A lot of times people just buy routes and they're just buying machines, and that's not really good. You have to make sure you're actually buying reliable machines, right? Okay. Yeah, so you have to actually test every coil, right? You have to make sure you're actually testing the machine. You have to make sure that they have a card reader. You know, nowadays, who really carries cash, right? It's really, it's not a lot of people,
rare,
right? So you have to make sure that it either has a card reader or you can put a card reader in the vending machine. So there's a lot of things you have to think about. And then when people are selling you a route, they might try to sell you, a route, let's just say for like $50,000. Well, you have to actually see if it's worth it, right? So actually getting the sales report. Now, if there's someone that says, oh, I don't have a sales report, then that's a red flag, right? Because then you don't know if that's actually profitable, if that location, now, of course you can move the machine, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it doesn't make sense to buy a whole bunch of, or a route with a whole bunch of locations, and then now you're moving because it's not profitable. You have to be very cognizant of looking at the, machines, the relationships. Do they actually own the machines, or are they leasing the machines? There's so many things you think about with a route. And so it's funny because once I got the route and I started adding more, then after, so many people were coming up to me and they were like, hey, how'd you get into vending? Like, teach us, right? And so that's it. So it's funny because now I have my vending business, and then I have Miss All About, the Miss All About Vending, because so many people were like, I want to run the play that you did. How can I be successful? And so, it's been a blessing because I have my ebook, and actually I will be dropping my ebook about how to buy a successful vending route, because that to me is something that's going to be very important. Gotcha. So I have my 2 ebooks and my courses, and that's kind of what I've been doing to help people get into the vending industry.
Nice. What do you feel like have been some misconceptions that people have, like, walking in there. Just so if you were to give like a light surface level, you know, misconception.
Yeah. So people think that vending is like, oh, I can just throw some product in there, and no, you have to be strategic, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're gonna be like, hey, Jimmy, how you gonna be strategic with some bag of chips? Well, first, when you're going to your vendors, your Sam's Clubs, your Costco, the first thing is you have to make sure, and this is funny because a lot of people do this. A lot of times you should be tax exempt. So I am tax exempt, right? Because I'm going to pay, you shouldn't be paying tax twice, right? Because you're going to sell the products, right? You're going to resell the products. And then at the end of the year, like, you'll pay taxes. But a lot of times people won't even like think of that. And then they're paying taxes at Sam's Club and then to the government. So that's one piece of it, is just strategically making sure that you are tax exempt, right? And that you're following those protocols there in the process and applying for it. But also when it comes to a food safety perspective, people don't think about food safety when it comes to vending. You have to make sure that the product is fresh, it's not expired. So when when I'm shopping, or when I have my team helping me and we're getting inventory, we're looking at the dates, right, on the box. Because you don't want a situation where you buy, and sometimes you'll see this at the stores, it's going to expire in 2 weeks. No, why would you buy that to put in the vending machine, right? Or into the micro market, right?
Trying to be cheap,
right?
Save some money.
No, right? So just making sure, right? We think about those things, right? And then of course, it's kind of like first in, first out. So you put the items that are going to expire first, right? In the first coils that they can go and be sold, and then right. So just thinking about that is a big piece of it. It's a huge piece. And pricing, you have to make sure it's profitable, right? You just can't say, oh, well, I guess I'll do $1 or 75 cents. It's inflation, right? You're not going to make any money. You have to understand how much it costs per item, right? When it comes to the big bulk, you have to like actually look to see what is it going to cost per item and how can I make sure I'm making profit. So those are things people don't think about. They don't think about the food safety aspect. They don't think about the taxes, right? And that implication. Oh, it's huge. How much savings, right? From me being tax exempt to another person who's not, right?
Yeah, because it's not just like the LLC partner, like, oh, I'm going to just, write off, because you have a business, you have a bunch of write-offs, expenses, things like that. But I feel like that's another step that you're
for sure. And a lot of people don't know that, right? And so that's why, right? And that's why, right? And that's why I created Miss All About Vending, because my thing is I want you to be successful in this vending industry. I don't want you to go through pitfalls and then you're like, well, Jamie, I bought this brand new machine and I'm not able to make any money. Like that's the whole point of doing the digital products, right? So that was something for me. But I will say those are some of the things I see is that people just don't know or don't realize the importance of the food safety aspect and just making sure that you're doing what you're supposed to from the formation of your business.
And do you feel like some people, like when it comes to vending, like there's certain prices that fluctuate based on the area they're in, like like gas prices or anything else, like
for sure. For sure. And also I'll give you a big example. So I talked about my micro markets, right? So in my micro markets, the prices are going to be a little bit more expensive because of the areas that they're in, like office buildings and things like that. And what I sell in the micro markets, because what I'm able to sell is going to be a lot more because I have all the shelving, I have all the coolers, right? I have the kiosk. So the variety is going to be a lot larger, right? So there I'm able to do salads, I'm able to do sandwiches, string cheese, yogurt, breakfast sandwich. You're able to do a lot more. Fruit, right? Yogurt. You're able to do a lot more on the coolers and that. And then you're able to do more when it comes to shelving because the coils of a vending machine won't be able to hold a big thing of muffins, right? Right.
It's only limited space.
It's limited space. Well, in my micro markets, we have muffins. We have just a lot of different things that you wouldn't be able to fit traditionally. Right, in the vending machine. So the pricing is going to be a lot more, right? So just making sure that you understand that and that it's a business, right? So while you might hear people like, oh my gosh, $1.25 for chips. Well, if you go to a grocery store, you're and you're also paying for convenience too.
That's true.
Right?
That's the biggest thing.
It's the biggest thing. It's convenience of a snack. And so, that's what you have to think about as well.
Yeah, because I'm like, if you think about it, it's like if the Dollar Tree is when everything went from $1 to $1.25. So you're paying for those bag of Doritos at least $1.25 plus tax on top of that. So, whenever you go into a vending machine, you can't be too surprised, If it's like $5, that's
that's one thing.
Ridiculous.
That's
but,
one thing. Yeah.
But if it's like $1.25, $1.50,
I
feel like
yeah,
it's reasonable.
For sure. $5 for some chips is kind of ridiculous, right? Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But but and another thing I do is the cups of ramen noodles, like things that, right? Yeah. You can't fit those in the coils, but you can do that in the micro market, right? Okay. So just trying to make sure that you're providing that balance, because if you're in office buildings, people want something that they can easily heat up and actually have for lunch, not just traditional snacks. So that's why the micro markets are a lot better and it's a lot more profitable. Yeah. And what I've been trying to do is get people to think about micro markets as well when it comes to vending, because it's and you don't see a lot of Black people with micro markets or people of color with micro markets.
And so micro markets, as opposed to like the usual, like normal traditional like machines that you just plug and go,
right?
Is that the one? Like, because I remember reading about something like one of them where you can walk up to it and it'll automatically turn on, and the one when you walk away has like a sensor in it. I forgot the exact name of it, but do they have those types of sensors? Or?
So mine don't have those sensors. That's why it's important to actually be in a location that has a lot of security that people are traditionally not going to steal. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, of course, you're going to have some shrink. You just are. You're going to have some theft. It's life, right? Yeah, just like at any retailer, any grocery store. What you do is you minimize that. So you have the security that's at the location, right? You're aligned with them. You align with the office manager on kind of this standard of protocol or whatever they have for security, and then you have your own cameras, right? And you have your own signage and things like that. But anytime you have like an open convenience store and no one's manning it, you're going to have some shrink. But it's always important to remember it's going to be standard, right? It's not going to be something that's going to be out the normal, but it's just important to put it only in areas where it's going to be minimal, right? Where you have a relationship with the facility, and then you have some other protocols in place, like the cameras. But you will see that, right? But you'll also see some of that with vending machines. We were talking earlier about people trying to break the vending machines, right? Right? Or trying to shake machines. So no matter what, you'll see. See. But it's also making sure you have good quality vending machines about the coils, right? So my machines, traditionally you won't see a lot of products being stuck because they'll do the double coil. So a lot of times you'll see it go once, right? And then it's stuck. Well, mine do and then it's
so do you
twice.
Feel like that like helps it get out
for sure,
better?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's that you point that out. I never really noticed that it was a difference in like how it functions. Oh yeah. 2 coils versus 1. I mean, I would notice by the eye test, I would see, for sure. But that's cool. So like when it comes to electricity bills, like do you how does that work?
Oh, no, that's a location, because you're providing them a service. Yeah. So what I always talk of is I'm going to provide you a free vending machine. I'm going to provide you a free micro market, and this is what it entails, and this is how it's going to benefit your employees, your associates, your office. I mean that's how you sell it. You know what I'm saying? Like the electricity, the Wi-Fi, whatever. I mean I'm providing them a service, right? Because they don't want to have to deal with the micro market or a vending machine or whatnot. So that's not on me at all. That's on the facility. Yeah.
I didn't know, because I know like them things take up some juice. So,
no. I mean, but it's all about knowing your business and negotiating, right? Like I don't have any locations where I have to give them a commission. Now some people, let me knock on wood, right?
Not right? Everybody. We can't be the all police here.
Not everybody is like that. Yeah. Right. So some people that have vending machines, they have to pay a commission. And into the location. I have been very blessed just with people being like, oh my gosh, you are providing a service. Look, I need you in my office space because we're not close to anything that, any restaurants or anything. But I will say you have to negotiate, because sometimes, some of these locations will want all of your profit. And you're like, no. So traditionally I tell people, 5 to 10%. Right. And then you could do that yearly. So at the end of the year, you show them the sales report, because they're going to want to know, like, is this a accurate number? So you show them the sales report, and then you can give them 5 to 10. But you have to negotiate that. Don't go any more than that. Right. Now, some people will try to get more. I always say it's not going to be worth it.
So you're saying to give them a range, not a specific number at the beginning, or?
I say don't even mention it at first. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't ever mention it. When I'm talking to them, I'm providing you a service, right? So I'm providing a free vending machine. I'm filling it up. I'm servicing it. There, if there's issues, my number, my information's on the machine. They're gonna call me, not bother you. So I say don't even bring it up. But if the office, if the office manager, or whoever if they bring that up, then the range that the company should give is between 5 to 10. Start out with 5. If they say 10, then then you negotiate there. But usually that's the commission range in the industry is 5 to 10%. Yeah.
Okay.
But if they don't bring it up, you don't bring it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, because I mean you're providing them a service.
Yeah.
A machine, all that, right?
Wow. And so like with your people that help out with like filling the machines whenever you get low on inventory, like do you have like a team of people that do that, or you just have like friends or boyfriends? Right.
Right. Like who does it? Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's a little bit of everybody. It's a little bit of everybody. Everybody
chipping in.
Right.
No,
and it's funny because you have to be very you have to also be very cognizant because yes, it is a lot of credit card transactions. But also it's a lot of cash in there too, right? And so you want to make sure it's people that you can trust with your money and with your inventory, right? Because it's not cheap going to Sam's Club buying for all of my locations, right? Because I'm not just buying the snacks and the food, I'm buying also the drinks. Right, and energy drinks and coffee drinks, right? The cold coffee stuff. So but you have to be very cognizant and just trust the individuals and have a schedule. Right, so some locations might need servicing twice a week, and making sure you have the right vehicle. Because if I have a little Honda, Accord, it's not gonna fit all of my stuff. You might need a van, right? Once you get to 25 locations, right? And so that helps as well. Just I'm all about like being strategic and how is it gonna get fast and streamlined. But yeah, it's important to have people, a team that you can trust that's going to help you and that's going to also just make sure customer service is right. So how does it look? We're not just jamming stuff in the coils. We're not just jamming stuff in the cooler or on the shelving, because you are providing a service. And if people see that your machine is bright, if your lights is lit up, it's full, people are more in my business. What I'm seeing is they're going to go to your micro markets, right? When it's fully stocked, they're going to go, compared to them walking up and it's all bare. So and that's the biggest complaint that I hear from locations is the service. The vending company I had barely serviced it. The machine's been empty for 2 months. So I'm like, well, why would they leave their machine, right? But but that's the biggest piece, is just making sure you have a team that you trust, right? Once you get to 25, 30, right? That really can help. That's always important.
Wow. And so, like, assuming that you want to scale to, like, beyond just, like, Kansas City or just beyond whatever city you're in, like, how does that work whenever, like, I don't know, you go to a different state? Like, do you have to hire W-2s? Do you hire people 1099s? Like, how is that, like, something that you're going to do, or is that, I don't know.
So for now, I'm just staying local, right? I am, like I said, I have mentees and people that I'm helping consult, right? And I'm helping them in their locations, whether it be Maryland. I have a client in Maryland. I have a client in Houston. But for now, I'm just staying local, just because it's easy for me to like man everything. I'm really big on let's get this sound, like truly sound, in the sense of I want to grow some more in my area before I try to like go out of state or do something, right? Or like, but it's important to know when I do that, like, what am I going to do, right? And how does that look? Am I going to have partners in that? Like, but you have to be very strategic. Right now, my big thing is scaling locally, right? And really being very intentional about my micro markets. So that's where I am trying to grow, is really look at office buildings that really are campuses that don't have any really food, right? So that's where we're going now, is we're really focusing on scaling the micro market space, because that's where most of the profits are.
Oh, wow. So, like, you had talked about, like, the noodles and things like that. Like, are you on any college campuses right now?
I'm not on any college campuses, but that is the plan, right? That's a part of the strategy as well. Like, I would love to be on, whether it's a community college or, a university. But that is the plan. Now, once you get to that level, I'm going to have like way more help, because it's going to be
goodness. It's going to be empty, like not every 2 months, but every 2 days.
So like once you get to that level, you have to be prepared, because
Yeah.
The patience is really thin when it comes to food. I mean, think about it, right? Like if we go to a restaurant and we get bad service, or if we go to, a place and they're like, oh, we don't have something. You're like, what do you mean? Like, you're a restaurant. Like, how you not, right? So it's the same thing because you're providing a service.
Oh, yeah. I was just at Chick-fil-A, so, they got to have the chicken sandwich with I had the breakfast chicken sandwich.
Oh, okay, the breakfast.
And the egg white, the cheese.
You did all that? Okay.
Like, if they don't have that,
it puts you in a space.
Like, I was looking forward to that. Correct. Yeah.
So it's a service. It is I always say we are providing a service. You're in the food service industry, and it's really important to just make sure you are communicating with the location, right? And having and maintain that relationship, and then providing that fresh service as well. Like I said, that food safety is going to be the biggest key.
Gotcha. Yeah, food safety is number one because it's all about you're serving the people, so you gotta make sure the people are put first before like the profit, because after a while you can be like, oh, that vending company, I'm not going back to that one. I got
because you just think about it, like, oh no, she always has expired products, or right, and it just you don't want that as your brand. So it's important to just make sure you're thinking about those key things.
Yeah, that's true, and so as you scale and grow and stuff like that, I guess maybe what are some the lessons that you took away, as we close the week, what are some lessons that you took away from your corporate life and implementing that into your entrepreneurial life? Because we talked earlier that you're like, this corporate life, sometimes you feel like you're just a number and you don't feel like you're cared for, and no flowers when you're in the hospital and all that kind of stuff, and just like. But what are the positive things you feel like you took away from, corporate life that you're implementing now?
The strategy, right? So in my role with my W-2, right, I'm very strategic. Okay. I partner a lot. I collaborate a lot. I get feedback. I do risk assessments, like different things like that, monitoring, testing. And so I do that a lot in my business. Yeah. Right. You have to be very strategic. You have to partner with the locations. You have to partner, with a little bit of everybody, to be honest, right? And you have to make sure that you're doing what you need to from a licensing perspective. So because I have micro markets, I have to have a food license, right? And right. And so I have to make, because I'm doing salads, I'm doing sandwiches, right? And so there's just little things that you wouldn't think of, but because I have my background of compliance, ethics, right, and an attorney, that I think about things like that, and just making sure I have different protocols in place and controls in place. That's really a big one. And then, like I said, it's all about treating your people right. So the team I have, you treat them right. You pay people right? You make sure you have good products. You just don't put the cheap chips in I mean, come on, right? So it's all about, like I said, providing a service and having a brand that's really strong. And how do you do that? It has to align with my ethics, with my core, right? And that's something that's always going to be important to me in my business. Nice.
And, so if you were to look at life like a house, and if, you have like all these foundational pillars, like what is one foundational pillar of your life your house stands on?
Oh, that's a good one. One foundational pillar. Well, and I would say it's because, like I said, my mother was such a prayer warrior. If it wasn't for my faith, right, and truly, like, and it's so funny, my mom was like, well, did you pray about that? And I was like, well, I was talking to God. Is that the same, right? And, but my faith has really been like the foundation and believing in myself. Like my mother, my parents, my dad, like they were very big on like, you can do anything you want to do. Like they were really, really big on that. And they had us do like, I was in everything, like literally like everything. Like I was that person, band and basketball and drama. And so like I was, even in college, I was, I was on my sorority. I was doing PhD stuff on, on the board. I was doing like sister. I was literally doing everything because that's what I was just always taught to give back and just really, like kind of focus in on what you like to do and then just be great at that. But if it wasn't for like my parents teaching me, you really can do whatever, just focus on that and excel, and then praying for me and my beliefs, I would not be where I am today. So I really do believe that it's important to give back. So that's why I'm always trying to give people game. Like a lot of times people are like, well, why are you telling folks this for free? I mean, my whole thing is, if I didn't get game from people, then where would I be, right? You have to give back as well, right? Yes, I have my mentorship, and of course with that and my ebook, I'm giving additional insight, right? And additional plays and games, but it's important for me to help people because there's so many different ways you can make money, right? It's not just vending. I mean, you can, it's just so many different ways. How can I help? How can we learn? How can we partner? So that's something I will say, just my religion and then just my faith, like I can do it. Like I've never been one like, oh, I don't know. No, I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna execute, and it's gonna be fire. That's so that's kind of been like the core is just my belief and just wanting more in life, you know. And so even with that, it's funny because even kind of with my ebook and my course, people were like, well, I want more information from you. Like I want more game. And so it's funny because October 29th, I'm actually having a mastermind. It's going to be in person in Kansas City and virtual as well. People can attend and giving more game on business credit, right? Because if you think about vending machines, a micro market can be 20,000 because you have the coolers, the shelving, the kiosks, right? Or you can buy a brand new vending machine, maybe 5,000, right? Maybe 4,000, depending upon the machine, right? You can buy used for 500, 1,500. But if you're talking about, okay, if you look at me, you're like, well, Jamie, you have 25 locations. That's a lot of money, right? How were you able, right? People need to know how to prepare their business from a business formation standpoint, from from a credit perspective, business credit, from a tax perspective, what you can write off, what you can't write off, and then different plays, marketing. And so I'm actually having, like a mastermind to kind of go through all that, right? Because there's so many things that people have been asking me, even through the book and the course, that I was like, okay, I need to flesh this out more so I can give you more game so that you can kind of execute in your area and have your vending business. So it's it's a lot, but my goal is to help other people, right? It's not just for me to build and scale my vending business and then other people want to get in the game and they can't. It's enough spaces and locations and money out here for everybody. So.
And not just in America, in the world. So
correct. Because in Japan they have crazy vending machines, like crazy vending machines.
Wow. Yeah. I've seen ones in even in Denver. Like I saw like a champagne. Vending machine. Paris is like typical. Like their first. I read their first vending machine was like alcohol, like beer, wine, all that stuff. It wasn't even like sodas. So it's just interesting. It's like, don't just think of like what's in America. Like there's so much beyond here.
There is. And even when the micro markets, you don't have to just have food, right? So in some of my micro markets, I'll have like kit, like a first aid kit. I'll have Advil, Tylenol, right? I'll have the little wipes, because you think about your customer. Like if you're in an office space, you need business supplies, right? You might need medicine, you might need tissue. So like different things like that is what I provide in my micro markets as well. And I think it's important, right, to just make sure you're being very strategic, like I always say, and just make sure you're focusing on that particular location and what they like and what they need, right? Because you're providing a service. So I always think about that. Lint brush, all that.
Wow, that's awesome. And so the very last question that we have is question of the day. And so we've been talking about snacks, food, and all stuff.
I know.
If you were living on an island, you had to have one less meal, and you can only eat that meal every day, what would it be? What would it be?
So that is a really, really good question. So let me tell you, my first word, literally, because we were living in Germany, my dad was in the military, like I told you, was Pommes was French fry, right?
Okay.
And so it's funny because my parents always tell me this story. They would be on the Autobahn driving and I'd be asleep in the back. And I would know when the McDonald's exit was coming up. Like they said, I would know. I would wake up and I'd be like, Pommes frites, Daddy, Pommes frites, right? And so they'd be like, all right, here we go. And so I would always go into, I guess, this one McDonald's. They knew me at this point, right? So I walk up, this little Black American girl in Germany, right? And I'm like speaking a little bit of German, right? And I would order like one small fry. And like literally, I think that's probably it. Like, I love French fries. I know that's like, but I do. So anytime and I'm like, I'm an avid traveler. Like, I love traveling, but like, I always have to try people's French fries. Like, no matter where I am. Like, if I'm in Greece, if I'm in Thailand, like, I was in Nigeria, like, I have to, I don't know what it is. Like, I love French fries. Nice. So probably like, French fry. I don't know.
Okay.
I just love French fry. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I mean, there's so many different ways you can make it. I don't know.
That's
but
cool.
But literally, that was like my first word was French fry.
That's funny. Not even daddy, mommy, none of that.
No, no. Why would that?
Funny.
No.
Was it the one where you like dip in the mayo? Because I know in Germany that's big.
I don't remember. I was so little, but my dad was like, you and them dang on French fries. But yeah, I've always had a love of food. So it kind of like coincides that now I have my vending business, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, that'd probably be it. I don't know. What about you?
If it was me.
See, now I'm pushing up.
Yeah, that's a good one. I would say, because I love pizza.
Oh my,
pizza's good. Because like you can make so many kinds of pizza. You can.
Oh my goodness.
So that's why I'm gonna say pizza, because like you can like, all right, I'm gonna do cheese.
Yep.
I'm gonna do a little meat on there.
Okay.
This is controversial. Put pineapples on there too.
Is it controversial? I love a good. I mean, you know.
Like there's like a huge there are people who are like so livid against these. I'm just like, wow, are y'all serious?
I mean, it's not an everyday thing, but if it's a Hawaiian option, I'm like, I'm gonna get the pineapple with it. Yeah.
Like I'm no cap. I've been I've seen on dating profiles, like people will say, if you put pineapples on your pizza, swipe left. I'm not kidding.
Stop it.
I wish I was lying.
Now I'm gonna judge them. That's the threshold, right? Like not if you're a good person, not if you're work ethic, not if we can not if we can build together your thought process. It's about some pineapples.
That's right.
I can't.
It's like people, get caught up on little stuff.
That's crazy.
Micro stuff.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yes, but anyways, but thank you again for being here. Talking with us about vending and your story and things like that.
Well, look, I just appreciate you allowing me on. Like I said, I really have enjoyed my entrepreneurship journey, and it's all about, like I told you, how can I give back? How can I help other people? And so I'm just really, to be honest, focused on scaling my business, but also helping other people, right? So I have Miss All About Vending. So it's missallaboutVending.com, and like I said, I have my ebook. I have the ebook that's coming out about vending routes.
Okay.
I have my course, and then I have the live mastermind I'm having. And like I said, I'm having experts from tax, marketing, branding, myself, accounting. I'm having all the people on this particular day come in, and we have it's going to be recorded, so then I can also put it on the website and sell that as well. But I'm just excited about continuing to help people think about even ATMs, like how can I expand my extra streams of income. Like everyone needs extra stream, right?
After COVID,
everyone.
I had a furlough from my job.
Right? Like you think about that, and how many people, like when you think about millionaires, they're like it's multiple. They have real estate, they have tax. I mean, if you think about it,
daycares,
there's so many ways that you can, So for me, it's how can I help other people kind of get some additional streams of income. And then, continue to build my brand as well. So I just appreciate the time because it's always great to get on and kind of talk about Kansas City Vending Services.
That's right.
That's the business.
Even to Atlanta.
Yeah. So Kansas City Vending Services is my vending business, and then Miss All About Vending is the consulting and the digital products piece of it. So it's separate, right? Gotcha. But Kansas City Vending Service is my actual vending business where I have my 25 locations.
Nice. And so is there like a social media platform that can follow you at, or
Yeah. So, Kansas City Vending Services.com, right? Yeah. If you're in the Kansas City area, or if you're interested in just kind of seeing what a vending business website looks like, right?
Sure.
But if you're interested in learning more about kind of what I provide to my mentees, to my clients, the books and things like that, then it's missallaboutVending.com. IG is Miss All About Vending, or you can find my personal handle, UF, since I went to University of Florida, Jireh, Jireh. So it's UF Jireh is also my personal. So people can follow me both on there and see the journey and all the things I'm doing, because you know I'm busy. Yeah. Like I'm very, very busy. But I like to stay. I guess it started when I was young, of just keeping myself active and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. We'll make sure we leave the links below so you can check that out. And follow the journey and be a part and ask questions.
Yes, for sure.
And if you want to show up on the 29th to the event.
Virtually. For sure.
You can do that as well. So anyways, we thank you guys for watching this episode, being a part of the Speak Your Life family, becoming a lifer. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. We want you to be a part of it. Hit the red button. I know, and I know this because I look at the algorithm. It says 80% of the people who are watching are not subscribed. So let's do that. Take this time right now. I'll put it out. So, anyways, thank you guys. We appreciate you guys. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace. All right, cool. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is good.